We are on episode 29, where we take a look at all 30 athletes competing at this year's World's Strongest Man, looking at their story so far, how we think they can do on the events, and how we rate their overall chances. And today is all about Bish Bash Bosh, the one and only Adam Bishop. He's competed at World's Strongest Man 6 times before. He's a 3-time finalist. Auntie Liz, what do we need to know about Bish?
It's really hard to picture it now, but Adam Bishop used to be an under 105 strongman, and he made his international debut on the heavyweight scene at the 2014 Giants Live Scandinavian Open, where he placed 4th out of 12 athletes. And on his way up, a really standout performance for Bish was at the 2018 Giants Live World Tour Finals, where he placed 3rd in a really stacked lineup, placing behind only Martins and Mateusz. His first World's Strongest Man appearance was actually way back in 2015, but he first made the final in 2019. In 2020, he finally won the Britain's Strongest Man title, edging out Tom Stoltman in an epic battle, beating him by half a point. And that same year, he made the finals at World's Strongest Man again, and had his best result in the competition so far, placing 6th. This year, Bish is going to be looking on improving on that 2020 result, and he has his sights firmly set on pulling 5:05 at the Giants Live World Deadlift Championships. Bish Bash Bosh then, Lazo.
Bish, he's been around for a number of years now. I remember Bish on the way up, he was a small under 105. Now he's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And he's bigger than me, he's bigger than Terry Hollins. Guys that used to be absolutely massive, and he's done extremely well over the last few years. Particularly, he's made the final of World's Strongest Man the last 3 years in a row, which is very impressive. He has had a little bit of luck on the way to do that.
I don't know if some of the people in his group are cursed.
But, you make your own luck at these competitions. You've got to be in it. He's an exceptionally well-rounded athlete. And what's interesting about Bish, particularly this year, he's not done any competitions leading up to this. Now, Bish is an athlete. Yeah, he's done Britain's, and he was solid at Britain's. I mean, Tom Stoltman was amazing at Britain's. But Bish is very good when he's not competing regularly.
Yeah.
He's one of those athletes that peaks very well. He understands training programs and training cycles, and he manages to get himself in really good shape. So I'm expecting a good performance from Bish this year.
He burnt himself out last year, didn't he?
He did a lot of competitions in a row, and we're all human, and I think he realised that. He's kind of gone away, made sure he's kind of spaced out his competitions this year. He's done Britain's, he's got Worlds, then he's got the Deadlift World Championships, which he wants to focus on. So 3 competitions in a year, much better schedule for Bish. And I'd expect, knowing him, he's very methodical in terms of his training, understands how to peak. I think we're going to see a Bish that's in shape at Worlds this year.
Into the events then, Lozzie, starting off with the loading race. And he's always been a pretty quick athlete, hasn't he?
He has. Bish is one of those guys, like I've mentioned for a few others, that have done a lot of World's Strongest Man contests that's actually placed all over the place on a loading event. He's been right up near the top, and he's kind of been, down at the bottom as well. So he's got that experience to cope if things go badly. I know he'll want a good start this year, though. The only question on Bish's kind of moving, I don't think he's quite as fast as he used to be.
He's a lot bigger than he used to be.
Much bigger, and obviously that size is helping in other areas.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can kind of hold you back on these kind of fast athletic events, but Bish generally moves very well. His conditioning isn't bad, even though he's so much bigger these days. And if he can get off to a good start in this event, he'll be in a nice position going into the next event, which is one of his favourites.
That next event then, obviously the Deadlift Ladder.
Yeah, and Bish has incredible pedigree when it comes to deadlifting. Won the deadlift in multiple competitions. He is regarded as one of the best deadlifters on the planet. The only element that we haven't really seen from Bish is a deadlift ladder.
Yeah.
We know he's great for max. We know he's great for reps. The only question is how quick will he be in the transition? That's the big key on this deadlift. Very different to any other deadlift we've seen before. So what I'm kind of getting at here is if athletes can do all of them, or they're going to get the same amount of reps, then it comes down to who's quickest. So he just needs to make sure his transitions are going to be fast. We expect Bish to pull something huge. He could well be one of the few guys that can do them all. I think if that's the case, he's going to secure huge points anyway. If it's a matter of doing 4 quickly, he just needs to be quicker than the next guy. That's the important factor here. But generally, deadlifts are an awesome event for Adam Bishop.
So, as someone who regularly competes at Giants Live competitions, I know he's got a lot of experience in the car walk.
He does, and Super Yoke as well. Super Yoke was a very, very good event for Bish. He seems to be, when you kind of delve into the results, he seems to be better when it's slightly lighter.
Yeah.
His car walk results aren't as good as some of his Super Yoke results. And looking at the car walk results specifically, he's normally mid to upper table. Okay. So I'd expect decent points as long as he can avoid the monster kind of car walkers, yoke runners that we've spoken about in some of the other videos. I think he's going to secure decent points in this one.
Something I know was never his favourite event is the overhead, and next he's going to have the log lift for reps.
Yeah, so log lift is something that Bish has notoriously had to work hard on over the years, and he's made good, steady progress. When you look back at him as an under 105 and you see how far his log has come, you know, these days he puts some solid numbers overhead. If we look at his most recent performance on a log lift for reps at the World Tour Finals last year, he got 5 reps with a pretty similar log that they're going to be using at World's Strongest Man. I think if he can come in and squeeze out 6, which would be a PB for him, I think, on that kind of weight, he's going to secure decent points again. He's not going to beat the big log lifters. If you compare his results to maybe like a Luke Stoltman from that same competition, Luke did 9 reps. Tom Stoltman also did 9 reps in that.
Very interesting.
Tom's another one whose log has improved, but Bish is improving steadily and slowly. So if he can just perform at his best, I expect a mid-table position and pick up solid points.
Next is the wrecking ball hold, a test of grip, and I don't think grip is Adam's best event, is it?
I think that's fair. You know, when we look on results, the Hercules hold that we've seen a number of times, he's normally not one of the top athletes on this event. Normally mid to lower end of the tables when we're looking at results. And Bish is someone that's put on so much weight that sometimes your hands are a bit more swollen than like a naturally bigger guy that kind of
just has big hands.
You know, a big farmer type that just is a brute to start with. So I think this could be an event where he does drop a few points. I know he'll have been working hard on it. Bish doesn't leave any stone unturned. He's a very methodical athlete that will try and improve in every single area. I just feel with how naturally talented some guys are when it comes to grip strength, it could be an event where he drops a few points.
So if after all that Adam finds himself in 2nd or 3rd place, which is likely because he's never actually won his group before at Worlds, he will have to do the stone off, a position he's found himself in a few times before now.
3 times, believe it or not, and he's managed to get through 3 times. And Adam is a very, very competent stone lifter. He's done stones in many competitions, pretty much always finishes any set of stones in front of him.
I think he won them in Manchester last year, didn't he?
I know he's had some really good results on stones. He's very quick, particularly with the lighter set, but I very rarely see Adam fail a stone. He's very, very good. He's got a strong back, obviously, long arms. He's well built for Atlas stones. He's been lucky in the last couple of years in the stone off that he hasn't really had
He's
a
not
tough
been pushed,
battle.
has he?
No, I mean, that's not his fault.
No.
Just he's gone up against 2 guys that ended up injured. And I think one time it wasn't actually the rep off, it was about speed. And he is very, very quick on stones. I think he's another athlete that if he can get that kind of right opposition against him, he's got a great chance of making the final.
Especially if he's in 2nd place.
Yes, I think if Adam can get into 2nd place in his group and have that advantage, it makes himself very hard to beat for anyone. You've got to be an exceptional stone lifter to beat an Adam Bishop when you're in a disadvantage. So I think if he can get into that position, he's got a great chance of making the final. It's going to come down to his group. You know, there's so many great guys this year. There's a couple of events in the heats that he could potentially lose points on, particularly the grip hold, and maybe the log lift. The log lift has improved, and like I said, if he can get that PB, then I think he'll hold his own. It just all comes down to on the day with Adam.
So if he does make it to the finals, he does have a few good events there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a very solid performer, and Adam usually actually just kind of relaxes once he's into the final and performs very well. There's always a deadlift at World's Strongest Man final, and it's an event he's won before. He's joint first on the deadlift last year, so you can expect big points on that one. I think the knack toolbox medley into the yoke could be a good event for him.
Definitely.
He moves well, like we say. Yoke is generally a solid event for him. He actually prefers the yoke to the car walk.
What about the power stairs? Because Adam's one of those, he's not like a chunky-legged man, and he's got obviously the strong back and legs and everything that he uses for the deadlift.
Yeah, he's well built for power stairs. The reality is we haven't actually ever seen him have to do it.
No.
Certainly not in a major competition. So could be a really interesting one. Build-wise, you'd think he'd be good at it, and I'm sure he's been training it hard with the anticipation of having to do it. But it's just not an event I've got too much information to go off. Like you say, I think he's built well for this type of event. And it's a hard one to just pick a decision on, especially in a final. There's so many great guys in a final, so it's about, you know, absolutely smashing it. But it's not an event I'd see him winning, perhaps, but he could score big points.
What about the Flintstone lift? Do you think that suits him better than a log?
Absolutely. And if you kind of look at his recent training videos, he has good mobility for a big guy, and he's explosive. He's not so good in terms of the shoulder and tricep power of the absolute monsters, like a Graham Hicks. That guy's shoulders and triceps are incredible. Eddie Hall's, Adrenus, Iron Bibby. Adam is a little bit more athletic, dynamic, explosive, and he's actually put some huge numbers. I think he's done 220 kilos in training, which is one of the biggest lifts we've seen out of all the athletes leading up to World's Strongest Man. So I think if he makes the final, this event will suit him much more than the standard strongman overhead events that we normally see.
So with all that said then, Lozzie, the hard part, because I know Bish is a friend, but how do you rate his chances overall?
Look, Bish is an amazing athlete, and I think the reality is he doesn't win his group. And I think looking at the events, I think Bish has a good chance of being second or third in his group to challenge on the stones. So he needs to make sure stones have been going really well in training, and he's got to expect a battle. He's been a little bit lucky the last couple of years. That's not his fault, and I think he's more than capable of getting through against pretty much anyone, particularly if he's in that second place.
Yeah.
If he can get into the stones in second place, he's going to feel much more confident. The reality is he's going to be up against someone tough, so I think he needs that advantage. I think all of them do. We saw from last year every single athlete that went into second place then made the final. So I think that's the big thing for Bish. If he can get into that second place, he makes the final. I don't see Adam getting into the top 5, but I think he could be challenging for, you know, he could match his best of 6, something like that.
8 or something.
Yes, I think realistically, looking at the events, that's where he's at right now. We've just got a couple of athletes in that final. They're just so talented. And as good as Bish is, I think he would need a better selection of events to really challenge the monsters, if you like.
Episode 29 done.
We're getting close.
One left to go. I wonder who it might be. Guys, if you have stuck with us this whole time, thank you so much for watching the video and partaking in this series with us. And of course, don't forget to check out our final episode, which will now obviously be the current World's Strongest Man, Tom Stoltman.